Howdy y'all and welcome. Hope everybody's doing well out there so far. Go ahead and get right on into it here. As you can see, we got some severe weather to deal with today, as well as a tropical storm chance out here in the Atlantic, as a 20% chance has been issued. It's a low end threat, but a threat nonetheless. And as y'all know, if you watch my hurricane forecast video, it's supposed to be a pretty active hurricane season, although it hasn't really been active thus far. But don't worry though, it's supposed to be a very active season. Definitely be prepared for that, as we do have our first tropical development chance out in the Atlantic. We'll get into that here in a little bit, so let's go ahead and get right on into what kind of severe weather we got to deal with within the next 3 days. As you see, we got a slight risk for some severe weather today over here by Texas, which is surrounded by a marginal risk, which also includes New Mexico, Colorado, and from Iowa up into Wisconsin. Now, there is no tornado threat today, but there is a damaging wind and a large hail threat, which can be just as destructive as a tornado, so keep that in mind and make sure you put up anything you don't want damaged from large hail or blowing around from high winds. Now, as we move off into hump day, we can see that there is a slight risk for severe weather from Nebraska all the way up into Wisconsin. All hazards are going to be possible tomorrow, with a 5% chance for tornadoes here in the red. And even if you're another 2% chance here in the green, that's a low end threat, but keep in mind, significant tornadoes can happen on low end days. As far as damaging wind threat goes, there's a 15% chance, and as far as large hail threat goes, there is a 15% hatched zone from Iowa up into Minnesota. So make sure, again, just like here on Tuesday, make sure you put up anything you don't want damaged from large hail or blowing around from high winds. And make sure you are hyper weather aware, even though if you're in the low end threat for tornadoes, know where to go when that tornado warning gets issued for your location. As we move up into Thursday, there's another threat for some severe weather. Although we do not know what the main hazards are, make sure you go follow my X and Facebook pages, as it will keep you all informed when the Storm Protection Center issues those hazards. But we will still take a look at the timing on the Euro, which we'll take a look at that lightning flash density rate. Now, other than severe weather, we do got some flooding going on, as there's a marginal risk for that within the next 3 days here in the green. Probably expect right around an inch to two with locally higher amounts possible. So definitely turn around, don't drown if you see a flooded roadway. If you live in flood prone area, please be aware of it. So now that we know the threats for the next couple days, let's go and take a look at the timing for when you could expect the worst severe weather. Take a look at this. We're going to take a look at the HRRR model. Now keep in mind here on Tuesday, the main threats are going to be high winds and large hail. And keep in mind that that date and time is up here if you ever want to keep track. Now, as we push this forward, we can see that there's going to be some general thunderstorms over here in north central Texas, as well as over about Iowa. And it's really going to start to get ramped up by right around 4 o'clock, with winds that could gust to upwards of right around 20 to possibly 40 miles per hour. Some areas could see higher wind gusts, which could lead to power outages. So make sure, again, like I said earlier, if you put up anything you don't want blowing around, or damage from large hail, as there's going to be a pretty big hail threat to deal with today. And it's looking like after 4 o'clock, it's looking like it's going to mainly turn into a big old flash flooding threat. We head into the overnight hours. So again, I would expect the worst of severe weather. If I didn't make that clear earlier, I would expect the worst to occur through the late afternoon into potentially the late evening hours. So again, make sure y'all are aware that high winds and large hail are going to be the main threats, with winds that could gust to upwards of 20 to 40 mile an hour, with locally higher wind gusts possible. And make sure you put up anything you don't want damage from large hail as well. Now let's go ahead and push off into hump day, as all hazards are going to be possible, with a pretty significant tornado chance with a high wind and large hail threat as well. As we zoom in here, we can see that during the early morning hours of hump day, not much is really going to be going on except for some general showers and thunderstorms. Then it's going to start to clear out a little bit, destabilize that atmosphere before some severe weather is going to be rolling through by right around 1, 2 o'clock in the western part of the slight risk zone, where there is a 5% chance for tornadoes. And regardless of whatever tornado zone you are under, make sure you are hyper weather aware regardless, and know where to go when that tornado warning gets issued for your location. And this is going to last all the way through right around 6 o'clock before diminishing by right around 8 o'clock, and mainly turn into a flash flooding threat, with some large hail occurring over here just west of Rochester. So make sure you put up anything you don't want damage from large hail as well. Now, as we take a look at the wind gusts and we back this up to right around 3 o'clock, we can see that right around 30 to possibly 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts is going to be possible, with some areas getting in on 70 mile an hour wind gusts. So definitely power outages are looking likely. So be aware of that, and make sure you put up anything you do not want blowing around as well. Now let's go and take a look at the significant tornadic parameters. This shows us where the most favorable ingredients for tornadic activity could be at. Don't mean that a tornado is going to happen within that certain area. It just means that the conditions are favorable for tornadic activity. As you can see, at right around 2 o'clock, when the severe weather is going to start to roll through, that slight risk zone. We can see we're going to be dealing with a 0.6 out of 10 on the tornadic parameters. And as we head further into the day on Wednesday, we can see that the tornadic parameters are going to start to ramp up by right around 6 o'clock, where they're going to be at right around a 1.1 out of 10 to almost a 2 out of 10 in some areas. But as we can see on the composite reflectivity, that the supercells are going to be well east of that significant tornadic parameter zone. And that's why I was saying earlier that the tornadic parameters can be off the charts, but if a supercell is not interacting with that environment, a tornado will not happen. But then again, the HRRR can be inaccurate at times, and the timing can be off by a few hours or so. So definitely make sure, regardless of the tornadic ingredients, make sure that you are hyperweather aware and know where to go when that tornado warning gets issued for your location, regardless of whatever colored zone you are under. And keep in mind that the timing of when you could expect worse of severe weather on hump day, it will occur from right around 2 o'clock through right around 6 o'clock before turning mainly into a flash flooding threat. So now that we know the timing of the worst of severe weather for the next couple days, let's go and take a look at the timing for the worst of severe weather on Thursday. And to take a look at this, we're going to have to take a look at the Euro model to take a look at the lightning flash density rate. This shows us where the most intense storms could fire up at, although we do not know what the main hazards will be just yet. And make sure that you follow my X and Facebook pages, as I will keep y'all updated on what kind of threats you could expect on Thursday. As we push off into Thursday, we can see during the early morning hours not much is going to be occurring, but then as we push off into the late evening into possibly the overnight hours, that's when I would expect the worst of the severe weather to occur. So definitely, again, like I said earlier, make sure you follow my X and Facebook pages, as I will keep y'all updated on there. So now that we know the timing and what kind of threats y'all could expect for the next couple days, let's go ahead and take a look at that little hurricane chance out there in the Gulf and in the Atlantic. Now, the National Hurricane Center is showing us that there is a 0% chance, although they were showing this morning that there was a 10% chance, and on Radar Omega, they were showing a 20% chance out in the Atlantic, which is most likely confusing to y'all, but here is the wording by the National Hurricane Center. Basically, the Eastern Gulf into the Atlantic is basically where that 20% chance for tropical storm development is, which is actually good for those drought conditions down by Florida, by the way. I know y'all been dealing with some sort of drought, and as we take a look at the NAM 3 kilometer, we can see that it's really not much to worry about. I would just expect heavy rainfall for the next few days down in Florida, which is actually pretty good news. And as we take a look at the Atlantic Basin to see if there's any tropical storm development after the next couple of days, we can see that there's not really going to be much affecting the coastal states, although it's supposed to be a pretty active hurricane season. And as we take a look at the sea surface temperatures, we can see that there's prime conditions for hurricane development out in the Gulf and out here in the main development region. And it's been a very inactive hurricane season thus far, although, like I said earlier, there's supposed to be a very active hurricane season. And if you haven't checked out my hurricane forecast video, please do so. I break that down in depth, as it's looking like hurricane season is going to start to get ramped up here soon. So definitely be on high alert, as hurricane season lasts all the way from June into November. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what we could expect for the next couple weeks here in the lower 48. Now, we already know there's going to be some severe weather occurring for the next few days amongst the central half of the country. And once we get past that, it's looking like we're going to be dealing with some heavy showers and thunderstorms amongst the northeast and a little bit of the eastern part of the country. But then we're going to start to dry out a little bit, coming in on some more heavy showers and thunderstorms amongst the central part of the country as we head into the weekend. Some weekend plans could get ruined, unfortunately. But then as we head towards the middle and end of the month, it's looking like we're going to start to dry out drastically amongst the southwestern part of the country, while the northern part of the country is going to be coming in on a little bit of a wet pattern. As we take a look at the next 6 to 10 days as far as precipitation goes, but the Climate Prediction Center, we can see that the western half of the country is going to be a little bit below average, as well as the eastern and northeastern part of the country, while the central half of the country down into Florida, up in the northwest, you're all going to be coming into this above average pattern. Next 8 to 14 days, we can see near normal precipitation is expected for really much of the country except for the northern half and the southern half, but it's looking like the western half of the country is going to be coming into a below average precipitation pattern. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures. Keep in mind that the first day of summer is coming up on June 20th, by the way, and we have been sort of cool here as of late amongst the eastern half of the country, but don't get fooled though, because some really hot temperatures is going to be looking likely as we head into the first day of summer. As we can see, 100-degree temperatures is going to be felt as far north as Indiana into Michigan by the 16th. And as we push off into the first day of summer, we can see scorching temperatures is going to be in store for really much of the country. And as we take a look at the Climate Prediction Center's risk for hazardous temperatures, we can see that there is a moderate risk for hazardous temperatures from the 18th into the first day of summer amongst the eastern half of the country. So definitely be prepared for the heat, y'all, because it's looking to be a very hot summer. So I hope y'all enjoyed today's forecast. If you did, make sure you hit that like and share buttons so more folks are informed about the weather. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button with bell notifications turned on so you never miss an upload, because here at Williams Weather, we try to make weather forecasting fun and informative. And if you have any feedback for me, leave it in the comment section down below, as feedback helps provide you, the viewer, better and more informative content in the future. So again, I appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, never stop forecasting.